So in this next section, we just have a bunch of exact value problems for arc sine, arc cosine, and arc tangent. What I would do to focus yourself is to make some notes. If you see sine to the -1, arc sine, tangent to the -1, or arc tangent, your answers can only be from a certain part of the unit circle. And that part of the unit circle is quadrant 1 for positives, and quadrant 4, but then negative values for negatives. So we're not using quadrants 2 and 3 at all for arc sine and arc tangent. The other thing is that your options are only these. So negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. So your only options for arc sine and arc tangent are negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. I have them all listed there. For cosine, for arc cosine, or if you see cosine is a -1, again, it's the same meaning. Your options are from quadrants 1 and 2 only. So you're not using quadrants 3 and 4. Positives are going to come from quadrant 1. Negative values are going to come from quadrant 2. So your only options here are these. So if you're working with cosine, those are your options. All right, now let's work these problems. So cosine inverse, or arc cosine, of negative radical 2 over 2. Remember, we said, think about this like a question. Where is cosine negative radical 2 over 2? Well, that happens at cosine is negative in quadrant 2, so that happens at 3 pi over 4. So remember, this is your value is in the parentheses here, and your answer is going to be the angle. Okay. Next, where is tangent -1? Well, tangent's 1 and -1 are fourths, and it's negative at negative pi over 4. If you were to list 7 pi over 4, that would not be correct. It is not in the range of our tangent. You have to use the negative value. We're not talking whole unit circle here. Remember, we're very restricted. Where is sine 0? Sine is 0 at 0. We're not answering with two values. We're just answering with that one single value. Each input has one output here. Where is sine negative radical 2 over 2? That is at negative pi over 4. Again, that is the only answer. If you answer with any other fourth, it is not correct. Where is tangent radical 3? Tangent is radical 3 at pi over 3. Where is cosine radical 3 over 2? Cosine is radical 3 over 2 at pi over 6. And we're only listing pi over 6 because of that restriction. Where is cosine negative 1/2? Cosine is negative 1/2 at 2 pi over 3. And remember, that is I know I keep saying this, but I can't tell you how many times I have students list multiple answers here. We have one input, one output. All of our angles are restricted to those pictures I drew above. Where is tangent negative radical 3 over 3? Well, the negative tells me to look in quadrant 4. Radical 3 over 3 tells me pi over 6. So I'm going to say negative pi over 6. Sine is negative 1. at negative pi over 2. Again, that is coterminal with 3 pi over 2, but it's not the same answer as 3 pi over 2, so we have to list that negative. Whereas tangent negative radical 3, well, tangent is radical 3 at all my pi over 3's. Here, our negatives happen in that quadrant 4, negative area. Cosine is negative radical 3 over 2 at 5 pi over 6. Quadrant 2 is where we get our negatives for cosine. And sine is negative radical 3 over 2 at negative pi over 3. So if those pictures help you kind of focus yourself to where you're looking at the unit circle, please use them. Please use them as much as you need to. Learn them. And then anytime you see arc sine or sine to the negative 1, focus yourself in there. All right, that's number 2 through number 13.